Many of the voices you hear during this season of Bigfoot Classified are performed by Ukrainian actors and actresses as a deliberate effort to support their talent and contribution to the entertainment industry. We recognize that the Dyatlov Pass incident, a real-life tragedy, occurred in Russia. The decision to cast Ukrainian actors and actresses is intended to provide them with support and recognition for their contributions while adding an authentic feel to this season of Bigfoot Classified. We acknowledge the significance of the Dyatlov Pass incident and extend our condolences to the victims and their families.
Bigfoot Classified contains content that is graphic in nature, and listener discretion is advised. Bigfoot Classified relies largely on news documents, eyewitness accounts, press conferences, and interviews. Every episode is produced with respect to the victims, families, and communities involved. Some of the interviews, quotes, and broadcasts have been recreated. Numerous hours of research have been done regarding these stories. And if you have a theory, question, or feel that we've missed something, we encourage you to visit BigfootClassified.com. This is Bigfoot Classified.
When 10 Russian hikers embarked on a once-in-a-lifetime journey in January of 1959, they had no idea that the events that they would encounter would give rise to a number of 60-year-old conspiracy theories. The Dyatlov Pass incident, so named for the 23-year-old leader of the expedition, involved mass psychosis, ice slabs, nuclear radiation, UFOs, and a Yeti. You heard it has it all. And even today, it is still one of history's greatest mysteries. Welcome to part 1 of the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Igor Dyatlov was a highly regarded young innovator and wilderness enthusiast. He was born in 1936, close to Sverdlovsk, which is now Yekaterinburg, and raised with an older brother and 2 younger sisters. His mother worked as a club cashier and his father worked at a chemical plant. As a child, he enjoyed camping and inventing. He built a telescope so that he could observe the Soviet Union's Sputnik spacecraft with his friends as it traveled across the night sky. He enrolled as a student of engineering at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Ural Polytechnic Institute, or UPI for short, is one of the best technical colleges in the nation, producing top-tier engineers for the nuclear power and weapons industries, as well as for the fields of communications and military engineering. Throughout his time there, Dyatlov oversaw a number of challenging wilderness expeditions, frequently employing outdoor gear that he himself had invented, or at least enhanced beyond its original use. During his second year at UPI, he was renowned for his efforts in building a radio that was used in 1956. While hiking in the same mountains and later, a camping stove that he would bring along on trips. Dyatlov's attention to detail, excellent physique, equilibrium of character, and kind demeanor set him apart from other people. He developed the skill of performing any task intelligently and frequently. In addition to being a talented amateur radio operator who built a shortwave radio transmitter and established connectivity with the nation's shortwave, he was also an excellent photographer. In the USSR, hope was in the air. Many political prisoners had been released from Stalin's Gulag as a result of Khrushchev's thaw, and the economy was booming and living standards were rising. Late in 1958, Dyatlov started organizing an ambitious 16-day cross-country ski journey in the Urals, the north-south mountain region separating western Russia from Siberia and, consequently, Europe from Asia. The objective of the expedition was to reach the Gora Otortin mountain and complete the needed expedition of at least 300 kilometers in order to receive their Grade 3 hiker's certification, which Dyatlov was set on achieving before he turned 24. He presented his plans to the UPI Sports Club, and they quickly agreed. Dyatlov's route passed through the traditional region of the indigenous Mansi people, 350 miles north of Sverdlovsk. Dyatlov and his fellow hikers would ski 200 kilometers along a path that, as far as anyone knew, had never been traveled by a Russian. The mountains were rounded and soft, rising from a large boreal forest of birch and fir, with bare slopes. The difficulty would come from freezing temperatures, heavy snowfall, and strong winds rather than rough terrain. 8 other students and recent graduates were enlisted by Dyatlov to participate in the ambitious mission. They belonged to the elite group of young people in the Soviet Union and were all accomplished winter campers and cross-country skiers. Vladimir Shunin, a friend of Dyatlov, was also asked to join the group, but he decided against it. Though a lot of sources, and Naomi, have said the group were elite students, Vladimir remembers.
Who were they, the students of the 50s, 60s? These were the children of war. Everyone was raised in the hungry post-war childhood. But they didn't worship money. They believed in the ideas of fraternity, equality, freedom, and faith in the bright realm of socialism. Study and work for the sake of all people. In those days there were no rich people. All were equally poor. Students earned money wherever they could. Basically, they worked loading and unloading of railway wagons. They weren't very well dressed either, mainly in ski suits, but they had lots of fun. We had a great degree of curiosity that helped us study, learn, work, play sports, and travel. Hiking played a particularly important part in our lives. A cult of tourism, risk-taking and courage in the face of challenges was influenced by such books as Dersu Zala by Arseniev, Ural, the Land of Gold, and others, which we read as children. None of these was done for the money. We did it for the romanticism of taiga, mountains, and for the good of the motherland.
Zina Kolmogorova was first brought on board. Zina was born in 1937 and raised there until 1948 in the village of Cheremhovo in the Kamensky district of the Sverdlovsk region. She was a radio engineering major in her fourth year at UPI University. She had made 6 significant treks as a hiker, and she had encountered her share of challenges along the way. A viper bit her during one of her travels. Despite the pain and suffering this bite caused her, she refused to carry less weight since she didn't want to put other people through misery. She was vivacious and enthusiastic. She was the engine of the university, or the soul of the company according to many who knew her. She was well liked by everyone and was always bursting with ideas. Despite being well liked at school, she always showed interest in and respect for everyone. People were naturally drawn to her as a result. Lyudmila Dubinina was the next recruit. Born on May 12, 1938, 21-year-old Lyudmila was an engineering and economics major in her third year at UPI. She was involved in the tourist club, enjoyed singing, and enjoyed photography. Lyudmila Dubinina was a very capable, brave, and esteemed leader. She had been picked to be the group leader of the tourists who went on the Category 2 trip in the northern Urals just a year before. In 1957, while on a trip to the eastern Sayn Mountains, she unintentionally took a shot from a different traveler who was cleaning a firearm. She bravely underwent a terrible injury. She did not complain during the lengthy and excruciating journey, and she even felt bad for annoying the group so much. Lyudmila was known as a severe, occasionally humorless Komsomol, the young communist member. Next up, 25-year-old Alexander Kolvetov, or Sasha as he liked to be known. Born on November 16, 1934, Sasha was a fourth-year student at UPI University majoring in physics. He graduated from Sverdlovsk Mining and Metallurgy College with a concentration in the metallurgy of heavy non-ferrous metals before relocating to Sverdlovsk. As a result of his academic success, Alexander Kolvetov came to Moscow in August 1953 to work in the Ministry of Medium Machine Building's Secret Institute, which was known only by the serial number I-3394. Research on the materials utilized in the nuclear industry was conducted by this institute. Later, he changed locations and joined the Research Institute of Inorganic Materials, which was creating materials for the expanding nuclear sector. He enrolled at the All-Union Correspondence Polytechnic Institute and finished 1 year of schooling while he was employed there. In September 1956, he returned to Sverdlovsk for his second year and joined UPI. His closest friends described him as meticulous, methodical, and having a clear leadership style. Fourth to join Dyatlov's group was Georgy Krivonishenko, or Yuri as he was known as, was a personal friend of Dyatlov's who worked as an engineer at the Mayak nuclear complex near the then secret town of Chelyabinsk 40 and had graduated from UPI 2 years before. Born on February 7th in Zurs, Ukraine, in 1935, 23-year-old Georgy sang, played the mandolin, and was short, wiry, and jagged. Yuri was born in Zurs, Ukraine, and until 1941, he resided in the eastern Ukrainian region of Donetsk. However, with the German invasion and the start of World War II, his family was compelled to relocate to Saratov, and again in 1941, he was relocated along with the factory's infrastructure across the Ural Mountains. In 1959, he earned his degree from UPI University. Following his graduation, he and another recruit I will get to, Rustam Slobodin, began working on Plant 870 in the Mayak. He was involved in the Kashtankoy accident while working at Chelyabinsk 40, a top-secret nuclear site. The plutonium factory experienced a radioactive leak on September 29, 1957. Georgy was one of those sent to clean things up. He went on all of Igor Dyatlov's camping trips and was great friends with him, so when Dyatlov came to him one day with his great plan, he didn't hesitate to join in on the action. So, once Georgy was in the group, next came his longtime friend, 23-year-old Rustam Slobodin. Rustam was born on January 11, 1936. He was a highly fit man who was also described as being just all-around decent and honest, though occasionally quiet. He had extensive climbing and camping expertise, and he frequently went on lengthy hikes. He also enjoyed running long distances. He frequently brought his mandolin on lengthy hikes since he enjoyed playing it. Rustam pursued a career as an engineer at Plant 817 after graduating, also known as Mayak Lighthouse in Russian. The plant was a Chelyabinsk 40 facility under the Soviet regime. This closed plant handled bomb-grade plutonium, among other things. A year before Georgy Krivonishenko, he started working at this top-secret facility. At another Sverdlovsk University, his father had a professorial position. Despite being of Russian descent, Rustam's father gave him the traditional Tatar name following a widespread trend of male friendship across borders. Although it has been suggested that Slobodin's parents may have named their son Rustam in recognition of the extended time they spent living in Central Asia, where the name is quite popular. By the time Rustam joined the trip, he had just finished his studies, graduating in 1959, the same year of the expedition. Yudin was born on July 19, 1937, in the Sverdlovsk region's Tabor village. His father, a frontline soldier, F.M. Fedorovich, father, passed away just 5 years after he was born. Despite the challenges of life, Yuri enrolled in Taborin Central Secondary School in 1944 and graduated with a silver medal after completing 10 classes. Yuri enrolled at the Ural Polytechnic Institute in 1954. Yuri, like Dyatlov, discovered the adrenaline that outdoor adventures offered early on in life. He had gone on 2 difficult expeditions before Dyatlov approached him about a third. Next up, Yuri Doroshenko. 21-year-old Yuri was born on January 29, 1938. Yuri was raised in a family of 3 siblings in the Streleki district of Kursk Oblast. When his father received his degree from Kiev Institute of GMI, his entire family relocated their factory across the Ural Mountains when World War II started, in order to avoid the German occupation and bombing. When Yuri was in school, his father died of a heart attack, not one to let anything stop him. He finished school a year later with straight A's and received a medal for outstanding accomplishments. Yuri enrolled at UPI and even had a relationship with Zina Kolmogorova, who I mentioned earlier. The relationship was going strong, with Yuri even traveling to Kamensk to meet her parents. However, like most first loves, the pair eventually split but remained on very good terms. Yuri had completed several long-distance trips and was an accomplished hiker. In the Middle Ural Mountain region, he himself led a number of groups with varying levels of intricacy. Nikolai Thibault-Sprignol was next. 24-year-old Nikolai was born on June 5, 1935. The son of a French communist who was executed during the Stalin era was Nikolai Thibault-Sprignol. He was born at a prison camp for political detainees. Nikolai Thibault-Sprignol was well liked by his friends for his enthusiasm, sense of humor, and outgoing personality. He earned his degree in civil engineering from UPI University in 1958. He started out as a foreman and civil engineer. Everyone who knew him and went camping with him felt a strong feeling of responsibility for the group as a whole. He frequently assisted group members who were weaker or younger in carrying their belongings. To make them more comfortable and to ease the pain, he repaired their bags. Nikolai reportedly assisted Yuri Yudin on his first significant expeditions into the Siberian bush. After he agreed to accompany Dyatlov on the expedition, he promised his mother this would be the last trip he would take. The last member of the group, Seaman Alexander Zolotayev, was a lot older than the others. Born on February 2, 1921, Seaman was 37 years old when he agreed to the expedition. Seaman Zolotayev was born in the South Russian town of Udubnaya. He was a doctor's son. He was a North Caucasian Cuban Cossack who lived to see the end of the Great Patriotic War. Seaman Zolotarev was on active duty in the 48th Army of the Second Belarusian Front from October 1941 until May 1946. Official records indicate that he was an exceptional soldier. No hesitation or fear, but very focused and careful, always ensuring his comrades' safety before his own. In addition, he was awarded 4 medals, including the Order of the Red Star and those for the Königsberg, now Kaliningrad conquest and the victory over Germany. Zolotarev transferred to the Leningrad Military Engineering University in April 1946. He finished his 2 years of physical education college coursework here. Later, he changed institutions to the Mink Institute of Physical Education. He served as a tour guide for Artebash in the 1950s for tourists visiting the Altai region in South Siberia. Even if his career may seem typical, there are some aspects of his biography that are difficult to understand. He had the option of remaining in the army, but he left. He might have stayed and worked as a tour guide at one tourist attraction, but instead, he frequently relocates throughout the nation without reason. Being a Cossack from the south, it is also against the norm of the area that he was unmarried, childless, and had a ton of odd tattoos that he covered up. People who knew his family were shocked to learn that he even had them. On the back of his left forearm, he had tattoos with the dates 1921, C, and +++=. The latter was typical among long-serving Soviet service members. The Russian letter D stands for Druzhba, meaning friendship. The initials of the 3 troops that served alongside Seaman Zolotarev were 3. The latter stood for Seaman in Russian. He has a tattoo of a heart also on the back of his right forearm. Another tattoo DAERMMUAZUA, yeah, appears to be total nonsense. Nobody is certain of what it represents, but there are plenty of theories. We most likely won't ever fully understand what these letters really imply. His late addition to the group is one that came as a surprise, not only to the hikers going on the trip, but it is still debated by the public and media today. The majority of hikers handpicked to go with Dyatlov had been either still in school or just graduated. All of them were thrown off when he informed them that 37-year-old Seaman Zolotarev was joining them. In fact, Lyudmila Dubinina wrote the following in her journal after learning the news.
It's the last day of preparations and everything has been quite hectic. From 11 in the morning I was scampering between stores buying different bits and pieces. And I was silly enough to buy 5 meters of cambric, which cost 200 rubles. I was packing in such a rush, and of course I've forgotten at home my sweater. Everyone was busy with something, and we had so many things to do. Just before our departure, those who wanted to say goodbye came to meet us. We were really short of time, but arrived at the railway station with seconds to spare. Then we had to say goodbye to everyone. Before leaving, we sang a few songs, but in the cart, Blinov group joined and we continued singing together. Among all, the most notable is Krotov's bass. This time there were a lot of very new songs that we were writing down with the help of an instructor, A. Zolotarev, who came with us on the track. At first nobody wanted this Zolotarev, for he is a stranger, but then we all agreed, because you can't refuse. Thus, as we were 10, and remained 10, for Slavka was not released by the faculty bureau.
On January 23, 1959, the group boarded a train and left Sverdlovsk. To avoid purchasing tickets, several of them hid below chairs. They were in such a good mood that Krivonishenko was briefly stopped by police while waiting between trains for pretending to be a panhandler while playing his mandolin. The events of the initial days of the expedition were documented through a collection of individual and group journals. The entry for this day was written by Zina Kolmogorova and reads,
"We're on the road again. We are now sitting in room 531. Or rather, of course, not sitting, but frantically shoving into backpacks oatmeal, cans, canned meat. The head of provision distribution is everything that everybody gets everything. Where are my field boots? Yuri Krivonishenko. Can we play mandolin on the train? Of course. We forget the salt. 3 kilograms. Igor. Where are you? Where is Doroshenko? Why didn't he take 20 packs? Give me 15 kopecks to call. The scale. Where are the scales? It doesn't fit, damn it. Who has a knife? Yuri, Take this the station. Slav Halizo just got here. Hello, hello. Can I get 15 kopecks? Luda is counting the money, lots of money. The room is an artistic mess. And here we are on the train. We sang on the song that we know. Learned new ones. Everyone goes to sleep at 3. I wonder what awaits us in the trip. What will we encounter? The police solemnly swore not to smoke the entire trip. I wonder how much willpower they have to get by without cigarettes. Everybody is falling asleep, and behind the window Ural tiger is spreading in all directions.
At least 5 of them had cameras, and they took multiple photos, laughing and joking with each other as the time passed. After 2 days on the train, eventually, the group arrived in Ivdel. On January 24th, the following entry was made into the group journal by Yuri Yudin. I realize the entries can be quite difficult to follow, but in the mess of conspiracy that surrounds the Dyatlov Pass incident, I think it's important we remember the victims of the tragedy and understand their thoughts, moods and feelings around this time. So the passage reads,
7 a.m. We arrived in Serov. We traveled with Blinov Group. They have things for hunting and other accessories. At the station we were met with hell of a hospitality. They didn't allow us into the building. The policeman stares at us suspiciously. There is no crime or vandalism in the city, as it's supposed to be in times of communism. And then Yuri Krivo started a song. The cops grabbed him and took him away. At the attention of citizen Krivonischenko, Sergeant explained that the rules of Section 3 prohibited all activity that would disturb the peace of passengers. It is perhaps the only train station where the songs are forbidden, so we stayed without singing. Finally, everything is settled by end of the day. We are leaving Serov to Ivdel at 6:30 p.m. We were welcomed warmly in the school near the railway station. The steward, she is also a janitor, boiled some water and helped us with everything we needed for the preparation for the trek. We have the whole day free. We want to go to the city to visit the nature museum or take a trip to a factory. But too much time is passed in distribution of equipment and cleaning it. 12 o'clock, in the interval between first and second shifts, in school we organized meeting with pupils. The room crammed with so many curious children. Zolotoryov, kids, I will tell you now. Tourism enables you to... Everyone is still, quiet, engaged. Zina Kolmogorova, tra-ta-ta-ta, what's your name? You went where? Awesome, you have been camping? She went on and on. Questions didn't end. We had to explain and show to every kid everything, from torches to tents. It took us 2 hours, and kids didn't want to let us go. They sang songs to each other. The whole school saw us at the station. Everything ended as expected. When we were leaving, the kids yelled and cried, asking Zina to stay with them. They promised to behave and study well. In the train car, a young drunk accused us of stealing his booze from his pocket. For the second time this day, the cops were involved. Discussion about love provoked by Zina Kolmogorova. Songs, reassessment, Dubinina under the seats, garlic with bread and no water. And we arrived in Ivdel around 12 a.m. Large waiting room, total freedom of action. We took shifts to watch over our stuff all night long. Bus to Vizay leaves early in the morning.
Maybe Lyudmila Dubinina's personal journal entry that day explains it better.
We arrived in Serov very early. We were not allowed in the station with the backpacks. We settled nearby the station. The boys crossed the overseer, that's me, with accusations of stinginess and greed. Alas, the canteen at this point is a great luxury for us. There was one small incident. Yurka K. was taken by the police, charging him with deception. Our hero decided to walk around the station handing a cap for a change after singing a song. Yuri had to be rescued. Then we managed to move to the elementary school together with Blinov group. After lunch, we began to prepare the equipment. Decided to talk to the children in first and second grades about tourism. They liked our stories and things very much, and they became very attached to us. Time flew by till 6 p.m. in the company of our new young friends. The children bonded so much, especially to Zina, that they parted with tears. In the train, we all sang songs accompanied with a mandolin, and just like that. Then, out of the blue, a young alcoholic came to the boys and accused them of stealing a bottle of vodka. He demanded her return and promised to punch them in the teeth. In the end, he did not prove or get anything and got lost. Yurka came and sang with us for a while and left. We sang, and no one even noticed how we started to discuss love issues, talking about kisses in particular. We talked all kinds of nonsense, of course. Everyone was interested. Everyone wanted to speak out, eventually trying to shout out each other and prove their own opinion. Sasha Kalevatov was the best in our debates. Probably he expressed not only his own thoughts, but anyway, he obviously won. We arrived at night in Ivdel and bunked at the station. We settled in the corner, spreading the tent, and laid down to sleep at once. I stayed watch. I used the time to sew overshoes and copy songs. Yurkina Ova from time to time shouted, probably from boredom and hunger. I lasted till 3 a.m. At that time, I lay down. Only Borya continued to sew something for a long time, but he finally retired.
The group then traveled by bus for another day, then rode on the back of a woodcutter's truck, and eventually traveled by skis while being pulled by a horse-drawn sleigh. They stayed the night at 2nd Northern, an abandoned logging camp. The group journal entry on January 26 by Georgy Krivonishenko reads,
We slept in so-called hotel. 2 people per bed. Alexander Kolevatov and Yuri Krivonishenko slept on the floor between beds. Woke up at 9 a.m. Everyone slept well despite the fact we did not completely close the small window and the room got a bit cold. Outside temperature is minus 17 Celsius. We did not boil water in the morning. Wood was damp. In the evening it took us 6 hours to boil the water. Had breakfast in the dining room, goulash and tea. When they handed us the lukewarm tea, Dyatlov said with a smirk, If the tea is cold, then go drink it outside. It will be hot. Original thought. We negotiated to go to Settlement 41 by a truck. We started at 13:10 and arrived at 16:30. We froze pretty good at the back of Gas 63. While traveling, we sang songs, discussed various topics like love, friendship, cancer illness, and cures. In Settlement 41, we were greeted warmly. They gave us a separate room in the hostel. We talked a lot with the local workers. I remember particularly the red-bearded man. The beard, that's what his friends call him. Ognev is an old friend. He is described in Liuda Dubinina's private diary. Lunch was served, we ate, and now we are resting. Some of the group is watching a movie in the adjacent room. The rest of the group is rummaging through their backpacks. Rustem is playing his mandolin while talking with Nick. I am going to do some adjustment to the equipment.
During this time, Yuri started to experience pain from a sciatic nerve that had flared up. The young man traveled to the 2nd Northern village with visitors in the hopes that the pain would soon subside. Here, he realized that it would be impossible to continue carrying a big bag with the mounting pain he was enduring. As a result, on February 1st, Yuri went back to Sverdlovsk at Igor Dyatlov's request, reported to the Institute Turklub leadership about the extension of the group's campaign due to weather circumstances, and sought medical attention in native tabs. Yuri later detailed this.
When we drove in the back of the truck, there was a strong draft, he explained hurriedly. I have had radiculitis from a young age. At first I thought that this was temporary. It would pass. This happened to me many times. One time when we went with Dyatlov Altai, the doctor wrote a referral to me there, and where I could get help from first aid posts on the trip. They wrote that I had erythema. It was summer. I could warm my leg and lower back in the sun. But then in the back of the truck we had no cover. The wind was blowing on us. I reached 2nd Northern, and then it got even worse. What else can I say? I hoped that it would pass.
Zenaida wrote in her journal about Yuri leaving. Yuri Yudin is leaving us today. His sciatic nerves have flared up again and he has decided to go home. Such a pity. We distributed his load in our backpacks. Now down to 9. The group went on. The party reached the edge of a highland region on January 31st and started to get ready for climbing. They stored extra food and supplies that would be needed for the return trip in a wooded valley. The last diary entry known was made by Dyatlov on this day, and it reads, January 31, 1959. Today the weather is a bit worse than the wind. Snow because the sky is perfectly clear. Came out relatively early. Took the same beaten Mansi Trail. So far we walked along the Mansi Trail, which was passed by a deer hunter not long ago. We met his resting stop yesterday, apparently. Today was a surprisingly good day for the tent. The air was warm and dry despite the low temperatures of -18 degrees Celsius to -24 degrees Celsius. The walking is especially hard today. Visibility is very low. We are going at a speed of 1/5200ths of a kilometer per hour. We are forced to find new methods of clearing the path for the skis. The first member leaves his bag on the ground and walks forward. Then he returns, rests for 10-15 minutes with the group, thus we have a non-stop paving of the trail. It is especially hard for the second to move down the new trail with full gear on the back. We gradually leave the Ospii Valley. The rise is continuous, but quite smooth. We spend the night at the forest boundary. Wind is western, warm, penetrating, snow-free spaces. We can't leave any of our provision to ease the ascent to the mountains. About 4 p.m. We must choose the place for the tent. Wind, some snow. Snow cover is 1.22 meters thick. Tired and exhausted, we started to prepare the platform for the tent. Firewood is not enough. We didn't dig a hole for a fire. Too tired for that. We had supper right in the tent. It is hard to imagine such a comfort somewhere on the ridge, with the piercing wind, hundreds kilometers away from human settlements. The hikers began to cross through the pass the following day, on February 1st. They may have intended to cross the pass and set up camp for the night on the other side, but when the weather grew worse and visibility decreased due to snowstorms, they apparently lost their way and turned west to climb to the top of Kalatsiaks. The group decided to stop and make camp there on the mountainside after realizing their error. Around February 12th, the goal was to arrive at the tiny settlement of Vizhai and notify the UPI Sports Club that they had arrived safely. But no such telegram ever arrived. The sports club initially believed that the group had just been delayed since there had been news of a significant snowstorm in the mountains. But after a few days had passed, the group's relatives started making anxious phone calls to the college and the local Communist Party office. And on February 20th, the search was started. There were numerous search teams, including UPI, student volunteers, Evil Camp prison guards, Mansi hunters, local police, and military planes and helicopters.
Ski footprints were discovered on February 25th, and the group's tent was found the next day. Nobody was present inside. The tent was covered in snow and had been partially collapsed. The search group discovered that the tent looked to have been intentionally slashed in numerous places after digging it out. However, everything seemed clean and organized inside. Boots, axes, and other gear for the skiers were lined up on either side of the door. There was food set out as if it was going to be consumed, along with clothing, cameras, notebooks, and a stack of wood for a heater. The search crew discovered very distinct footsteps of 8 or 9 people walking toward the tree line about 100 feet downhill. The majority of the prints depicted stockinged or even naked feet. It looked like one person was donning a single ski boot. A searcher later testified some of the prints indicated that the person was either barefoot or in socks because you could see the toes. The group pursued the footprints downward for 600 to 700 yards before giving up on them near the tree line. So, where were the hikers? Why were they out walking barefoot in the cold? Join us in part 2 to find out how the 9 hikers' disappearance became a worldwide phenomenon.